We were told Ebola wasn't coming to the United States. We were told how hard it was to catch it. It's time we realize this is something we need to worry about and prepare for. With me now, Dr. Nina Radcliffe. All right, Dr. Radcliffe, thanks so much for being with us. You know, whenever my kids used to start school when they were little in September, they would always come home with a flu and a cold. It was September, October, November. Then I would get it, and everybody in the house would get it. What do parents do now? I mean, we've got this Entrovirus, where a second child died in Michigan, one in New Jersey. What do parents do? What do they look for? And when do they take their children to the doctor?
Well, this is the issue. Children love to share germs. They may not like to share their toys, but they love to share germs. And I'm worried for my daughter. She's a 3-year-old in preschool about Entrovirus. I'm not worried about her catching Ebola at this time. And the problem is Entrovirus is making a comeback, and it's killing kids.
What is that? What is the Entrovirus?
Right. There's 100 varieties of it, and this particular strain affects our respiratory system, and it takes particular hardship on the lungs. Kids with asthma can have difficulty with breathing, and they can even get paralyzed, and we're getting concerned about that because we don't know the mechanism and we don't know how to stop it.
All right. And, you know, you say that Ebola is not endemic to the United States. What do you mean by that?
My concern is that in terms of Ebola, it comes from Africa. These children are not exposed to it. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, but I was reading some of your thoughts, and you say you're not concerned about Ebola.
Well, I won't say I'm not concerned about it. I'm on guarded condition for it. But in terms of for my daughter, for our children, that's not what we need to be worried about. We need to be worried about the seasonal flu. We need to be worried about this Entrovirus for the kids.
All right. So when do you take your children to the doctor?
Whenever they're not feeling well. If they have a fever, they're having cough, they're having difficulty breathing, if they're having diarrhea, if they're having vomiting. These are concerns for kids, not just in terms of Ebola, but just in general terms.
And, you know, when we talk about this, let's stick with Ebola for a second. Are you surprised that the nurse has contracted it in Dallas?
I am surprised about that. And there is a protocol. When the protocol is followed, we should not be able to contract this. The problem is we have to figure out where it was, because these are healthcare workers. These are the people who are putting their lives on the line. If we have a second case, which we likely will, we need to make sure that our doctors, our nurses, our staff, they can protect themselves. We can't have that massive fear, because patients do deserve to be treated.
And, you know, what's interesting is that there is an organization, I think it is the, I have the notes here, some national nurses organization that says that something like 79% of the nurses haven't had any training in any of this as it relates to Ebola. The CDC is now going to be implementing new rules, a 5-point plan as a result of what happened in Dallas.
Right.
Do you think that our healthcare system is ready for this?
Well, I think that we have to have all hands on deck. Anytime that there's a slip, this is what can happen. We need to get everybody involved. If they don't feel like they're getting trained enough, we need to do this. We do have universal precautions where we do not come in contact with bodily fluids. And that's why we have to figure out exactly what happened with this woman so it can never happen again.
But they say that the Ebola symptoms are not only the only indicators, and it's not just bodily fluids, but if the virus can last for hours, then, and you take your hand, for example, you go to a coffee shop, somebody sneezes on the counter, you put your hand down to get your coffee and you wipe your eye or mouth or whatever, you can catch it. It's not just bodily fluids, correct?
Correct. Well, that is bodily fluids when you have secretions or if you sneeze, because that's saliva. So
even though it may be dry on the counter, they're saying the virus still lives.
Yeah, viruses can live outside the body for a period of time, and that's a concern.
That's a real concern.
It's a very big concern.
Do you plan to see people wearing masks on airplanes? I mean, how is this going to impact society?
Well, with seasonal flu, they will be likely wearing that. So people who are having the symptoms, the coughing, the cold, I'm worried about tuberculosis, I'm worried about seasonal flu, I'm worried about things like Entrovirus. Those are the ones I'm concerned about. The people who are sick enough, they probably hopefully will not fly.
All right. Dr. Nina Radcliffe, thanks so much for being with us this evening. And coming up, today's news shows how well the Dallas hospital handled Ebola. So what happens when somebody walks into a clinic with symptoms? I go inside an urgent care center here in New York City to find out. That's next.